Yes, as Ms. Lacroix says, I'm Dr. Murray. I'll be talking about the prevention and management of obesity naturally. Obesity has always been highlighted in the media. It's recognized as a global health issue and a very significant lifestyle disease. And with any issue, there are going to be persons trying to capitalize on it, draw attention to it, and have all sorts of trendy solutions. But the natural methods are timeless, and that's what I'll be talking about today. But before I get into uh, the prevention or management of obesity, I'm going to talk a little bit about what it is and what the risk factors are. So obesity is a chronic complex disease defined by excessive fat deposits that can impair health. The diagnosis is typically made objectively by calculating a person's body mass index. So that's their weight in kilograms divided by their height in meters squared. Obesity is significant because it can lead to an increased risk of really diseases of every bodily system, but we mainly think about the type 2 diabetes, heart disease, including hypertension, increased risk of stroke, the heart attack, certain cancers, and it can also adversely affect bone health and reproduction. Now, body mass index is what's typically used in the clinical setting to diagnose a person as overweight or obese. Some persons will say that it is a little biased because when BMI was first developed, it was done using a European male population. And it can be difficult to extrapolate that to persons um, of other races and ethnicities and also to women. So another measure that has been suggested and is used is also the waist circumference. So abdominal obesity is defined as a waist circumference larger than 35 inches for women and greater than 40 inches for men. So that's another measure of obesity. This is the BMI scale, right? Ranging from a BMI of less than 16, that's severe thinness, going up to normal, which is a BMI of 18.5 to 25. Overweight is 25 to 30, and anything above 30 is the varying classes of obesity. As I stated before, obesity is a global health issue. So as of 2022, 1 in 8 people in the world were living with obesity, and 2.5 billion adults were overweight, keeping in mind that our world population is just under 8 billion persons total. 43% of adults aged 18 and over were overweight, and 16% were living with obesity. And then that was 37 million children under the age of 5 who were overweight. And we're going to talk about why obesity in children is such an issue today as well. Ms. Lacroix mentioned the STEPS report. The STEPS report was major for us. This was a study that was developed by the World Health Organization, and several countries employed it to get a better grip of what was happening in terms of their chronic diseases so that data-informed decisions could be made in terms of policies to help combat this. We know that we have very high rates of chronic diseases in the Bahamas, very high rates of kidney disease that's linked to diabetes or hypertension, very high rates of certain cancers, heart attacks, stroke. And one of the risk factors for all of these conditions is being overweight or obese. As mentioned, the Bahamas was shown to have a prevalence of 71.7% of adults 18 and over being overweight or obese, compared with a prevalence of 62.4% in other countries in the region. And this was not always so. In 1989, the prevalence in the Bahamas of being overweight or obese was 21.3%. This increased to 31% by 2001, right? And 18 years later, we were at 71%, right? So our prevalence of obesity more than doubled. Interestingly, when they did this study, it was noted that 4.6% of respondents, based on the numbers that were submitted for their height and weight, 4.6% were underweight. Just 23.8% of persons were normal body weight. 27.9% of persons were overweight, and 43.7% were obese. And this was based on a population of about 2,500 persons that would have responded to the survey. While more males were noted to be overweight and fall into that category, more females fell into the obese category. So let's talk risk factors. Now, most of us, we know we're very familiar with the factors that put us at risk for unhealthy weight gain. And that starts with sedentary behavior or a lack of physical activity. More and more persons are working sedentary jobs. We're spending a lot of time sitting down behind computers, sitting at desks, working jobs that allow us to be pretty stationary. A lack of physical activity contributes to obesity due to so many factors. So we're burning fewer calories, right? So we're consuming more than we are burning. We'll take in these meals that have all of these calories in them, and then we're not burning them off, right? The less you exercise, you also have a slower metabolism. So that's uh, another source of weight gain. You're going to retain that weight because your metabolism is slower. You have a lower muscle mass, and muscle burns calories faster than fat does. So less muscle is less calorie burning. And it also impairs your appetite regulation. So when we are more active, exercise helps to regulate the hormones that signal to us when we're hungry, when we're full. Less exercise, we have less regulation of those hormones. We're going to be eating more. Then there are the dietary choices that we make. So these are our empty calories. Like was mentioned in our health tip, these are our sugar-sweetened beverages. It's also the packaged snacks that we will eat, that we make sure the house is stocked with, that we pack in our children's lunch boxes, the chips and the cookies and the pretzels, right? High in salt, very processed, the fast food. It's processed meats that we eat for quickness, the bologna, the hot dogs, desserts, the instant noodles, all of the things that are very convenient are very highly processed and full of empty calories. Even the breakfast cereals that may tell us that they're so healthy, they're high in sugar and low in calories, high in sugar, high in calories, low in fiber, very limited vitamins or minerals. So that's that poor nutrient quality, causes rapid spikes in our blood sugar levels and reduce feelings of fullness. So we're going to want to eat more than what's even recommended on the package. The package will say 3 servings and we'll eat it all at once, right? Because it doesn't have that staying power to keep us full. There's also emotional eating. Now, a lot of us will eat when we are stressed. And when you're stressed, you have increased levels of cortisol or the stress hormone. The stress hormone, uh, it will likely make you crave foods, right, that are salty, that are sugary, because they give you that quick sugar spike, that energy and mood boost, and then you crash. But you kind of get a dopamine release. So you feel good for that short time, and it's going to create a feedback loop in your brain of the last time I ate this, I felt really good. Let me do it again. And it is very short-lived. So you keep going back to get that high. And while you're doing so, your body is holding on to those calories, holding on to that weight, because cortisol also increases fat accumulation. Instead of burning, you're more likely to hold on to it. And then there's sleep deprivation. A lot of us don't link our sleeping habits with our weight. Sleep deprivation actually creates a perfect storm for our weight gain and fat retention because it alters our hormones. The same hormones I was talking about that gives us our hunger and our fullness signals. When we're not sleeping, those hormones are dysregulated. And it also leads to an increased appetite, those same salty cravings, because we're going to be like, oh, I'm so tired. I only got 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I need something that's going to give me an energy boost. And we'll run for maybe a pastry or something, sugary to give us that energy boost. We get that blood sugar spike, and then we get a crash, right? So while we're looking for a quick fix for our exhaustion, all of these factors are actually only making things worse when it comes to our unhealthy habits, when it comes to this undesired weight gain. So those were our lifestyle factors. Now we have our genetic and environmental factors, which are things that can be outside of us but still affect us. So I mentioned obesity in children, which is an issue. We're seeing children now come into our healthcare facilities with type 2 diabetes, with high blood pressure. And some of this is due to a genetic predisposition. So some people are genetically more likely to have variations in genes that make it easier for them to gain weight, harder for them to lose weight. But while genetics can make someone susceptible to obesity, environmental factors and lifestyle factors, so that's, our diet, our exercise habits, they interact with our genetics. So someone um, who might be genetically predisposed to be on the heavier side, when they also are now eating unhealthy foods and exercising less, they are more prone to gain weight than someone who does not have this genetic risk factor. But two persons who both have the exact same genetics, if one makes healthier lifestyle choices, they can be at a healthy weight, right? So it's like the age-old adage where it says that genetics may load the gun, but it's our lifestyle that pulls the trigger. The environment definitely is a very powerful modifier. So speaking of environment, we have our social, cultural, and economic influences. So social, that's our family habits. A lot of children we will see who are overweight and obese, they're not the only person in the family. 9 times out of 10, mommy is on the heavier side, daddy, older siblings. The culture of the household is to eat high calorie foods, processed foods, to participate in mindless eating, maybe eating in front of the television, um, just eating as a social activity when eating when we're not hungry, right? There's peer pressure. Every time you get together with your friends, a lot of us, the only social activity that we are really familiar with is going out to eat, right? And usually when we go out to eat, we eat maybe foods we wouldn't typically eat at home, maybe larger portions that we would eat at home. There are also our cultural influences. In the Bahamas, we have a culture of eating very large plates, using very large plates, large portions. We fill up the whole plate. Even the decorations on the side of the plate are covered with food. And we eat multiple starches. We want the peas and rice, the macaroni, the coleslaw, the potato salad, and then we want to put meat on top of that. And then we want color on our plate, so we might put a little bit of little broccoli and cauliflower on the side, a little bit of tossed salad, or we might decide there's no space for that, right? Left on the plate after we put all the important things, right? So our culture, our cultural views on what is a healthy weight. It is socially acceptable in Caribbean culture for persons, especially women, to be on the heavier side, right? So we don't even recognize what is overweight or obese, and we don't see it as a risk factor for health because it's so normalized in our culture. And then we have our economic influences, in which some persons may not be able to afford, let's say, a gym membership. They may not live in an area that is walkable. Many of our areas, especially our more urbanized areas, they're not walkable. There are no sidewalks, there are no parks. So persons, if let's say you don't have transportation, it's harder for you to get to areas where you can feel safe exercising, or you might live in a very small living space that makes exercising a bit more of a challenge for you if you're not highly motivated, especially. There are what we call food deserts. Even here in the capital, there's a big difference between the grocery stores that are in more of our inner city areas versus more of our higher income areas. There tend to be less fresh fruits and vegetables in those areas and lots more processed foods, right? Foods that are cheaper, not only in price, but because they're cheaper in price, they're cheaper in quality. And that's what persons have access to. So all of these factors can contribute to risk factors for obesity. Persons with a lower educational attainment, lower socioeconomic status are at higher risk and have higher rates of obesity as a result of some of these economic influences as well. So now we want to talk about what we can do in terms of our management and prevention. And we see a bit of what we're going to talk about. It's the opposite of what we have been speaking about. We want to combat our risk factors with balanced diet, with physical activity, with mindful rather than mindless eating, and with healthy sleep patterns and stress management. So a balanced diet. We take some of these things for granted. Um, right? This is not necessarily common knowledge, but we want to focus on whole foods. So these are nutrient-dense foods rather than foods that are calorically empty. Lots of vitamins, lots of minerals, colorful plates. So plates should be, we've been saying this in the Adventist Church for forever, that half of your plate should be fruits and vegetables. It shouldn't be an afterthought that we put on to kind of alleviate our conscience at the end of filling our plate. Half of the plate, fruits and vegetables that are cooked in a healthy way, right? So we don't want to be frying all of our fruits, all of our vegetables. We don't want to be candying them every time we eat them to make them more palatable for us. We want to get used to the taste and the experience of fruits and vegetables in their most natural state. Those are high in fiber, which helps to keep us fuller longer. Lean proteins, which just means proteins that are lower in saturated fat that adversely affects our cardiac health. So for persons who do eat meat, want to limit the amount of meat that you eat, and when you do, you want it to be a lean protein. So that's not the red meat, that's more so the poultry, the salmon, and it's prepared in a healthy way. So chicken, turkey, fish. If you're plant-based, that is beans, lentils, tofu. Right? Protein helps to build muscle and keeps us fuller for a longer time. We want to make sure any fats that we have are the healthy fats from avocados, nuts, seeds, using the healthier oils like olive oil or grapeseed oil as far as possible. And we don't want to be deep frying our food, right, in any event. So that should be the rare occasion rather than the standard, because we all know fried foods, your palate gets used to them. We want to eat things that taste good. So it's also a process of rewiring our brains to enjoy the things that are good for us and limiting our processed foods, our refined sugars, our unhealthy fats. And we also want to make sure that we're controlling our portions. Some persons, know it's easy to think that if we're eating healthy, we can eat the largest portions. We can eat as much as we want because it's healthy food. But your body can only use a certain amount of nutrients. And then once you get beyond that requirement, the rest is still stored as fat, right? So we want to make sure that we are not centering on food. We're eating because we are hungry and not as a hobby, not as an activity because we enjoy food, even though there's nothing wrong with enjoying food. Hydration, we want to make sure that water is our main beverage and we're limiting sugary beverages. There's so much sugar hidden in these sweet drinks. We can be drinking more than a meal of calories in a beverage, especially some of the trendy beverages. A lot of us, we like the Starbucks and the Dunkin' Donuts, the creamy drinks that have as much calories as several donuts, right? But we're not seeing it because we're drinking it. So we don't even think about those calories. There was a study that was done that showed in adults who were on a healthy diet for obesity. This was a population of obese adults who were put on a low-calorie diet. And drinking water before each meal helped significantly with their weight loss. So those who consumed just 500 mils or half a liter of water prior to each meal had a 44% a 44% greater decline in their weight over a 3-month period than those who did not. And that goes with recognizing our hunger signals as well. A lot of times we think we're hungry when actually we're thirsty, we're dehydrated, and we would eat less if we were drinking the appropriate amount of water each day. So that's our diet. We also want to talk about our physical activity. Regular physical activity is crucial for maintaining a healthy weight. It helps to boost our metabolism, like I said earlier, and it improves our overall health. So for persons who have pre-existing conditions, it's good to be cleared by a physician for doing any sort of intense activity. But if you're doing moderate activity like swimming, walking, no pre-clearance is really needed for that. There's our aerobic exercise or our cardio. That's any exercise that gets our heart pumping, right? So that's walking, like doing a power walk, jogging, swimming, cycling. We want to aim for 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes, 5 times a week, right? And making sure that we're also taking our rest days. So shorter activities if you're doing more days, and you can go for longer durations of exercise if you're going for less days. Right? There's also our strength training. We build muscle through our resistance activities. So whether that's lifting weights, doing squats, doing lunges, push-ups, using your own body weight, all of that contributes to our overall health. And the goal is daily movement. So we want to incorporate activity into our daily lives. So whether that's parking farther away from the door, we like to get the closest parking spot for the least amount of walking, but especially if we're not doing rigorous activity or we have a very busy schedule, we feel like we're not going to get intense activity in, make activity a part of your routine. So how can I get more activity? I can take the stairs instead of the elevator. Right? I can park farther away. If I'm going someplace close, I can walk or bike instead of drive if the situation allows. And the key is to, one, find enjoyable activities to make it sustainable. Now, we know that it's about March now. Many persons would have joined gyms and paid the expensive membership fees, but because it's not something we really enjoy or are invested in, we didn't stick with it. So we want to find something that we enjoy, whether you like walking, you like swimming, you like dancing, something that is going to help to keep you fit, that you're going to be motivated to continue with. And the key is consistency. It's better to be consistent with shorter durations and lighter exercise than to have a really big, hard workout very infrequently, right? You'll see more results with consistency. Sleep. Many of us have poor sleep hygiene, and it's just the norm now, right? Where we will sleep with the television on, where we scroll on our phones until late hours of the night, exposing ourselves to that blue light that dysregulates our sleep rhythm, where we do other things in bed other than sleep. So we're in bed on our laptops doing work, we're in bed reading, we're in bed scrolling, and now when it's time to sleep, we have a harder time falling asleep and staying asleep. But sleep is essential for maintaining a healthy weight, and we should be aiming for 7 to 9 hours a night, right? More for children, but as adults, 7 to 9 hours. And like stated earlier, poor sleep can disrupt our hormones, leading to overeating and weight gain, right? Because we're exhausted, and now we're trying to compensate for that with unhealthy foods. Chronic stress can also lead to poor food choices and overeating, and we talked about uh, how our stress hormone can wreak havoc on our body, leading to unhealthy weight gain. So we want to, as far as our sleep hygiene, create a healthy environment. When it's time to sleep, as far as possible, darkness, quietness, having a sleep routine. Whereas, okay, an hour before I'm going to bed, let me start unwinding. Let me close the laptop. Let me put the phone away. Maybe I need to read a book to relax my mind or listen to some soft music. We want to manage our stress by having a healthy support system. Do you need to talk to somebody about it? Do you need to look into delegation? Is it a work challenge? Whatever it is that is creating that stress, you need to get to the source of it because it is a major risk factor for weight gain. And these are all things that are within all of our within our power, right, to implement because we need to take control of our own health. So no one has a greater impact on our health than us. And when it comes to now building sustainable habits, we have to be strategic. We want to make smart goals. So our goals should be specific, they should be measurable, they should be attainable, they should be relevant or realistic and time bound. So an example of this is I'm going to walk 30 minutes, 5 days a week for the next 2 weeks. So that's specific. It tells you how long you want to walk, right? It's measurable. So for how long do you want to do it? For 5 days a week. It's attainable, right? You don't want to set anything that is overly ambitious. So if you're coming from zero exercise, you don't want to say, I'm going to exercise uh, an hour every single day, almost like we're trying to punish ourselves, right, for our lack of activity in the past. Or you know that you used to eat very unhealthy and now you're like, I'm only eating vegetables from now on, right? You're gonna get discouraged because change tends to occur with a lot of small changes over time in a stepwise fashion rather than big drastic changes for most of us. Right? You want something that is realistic and that's relevant. So you want to know why you want to do this, relevant to your life, and also something that is realistic for you to do. And then time bound. So in this case, it is the I want to do it for 2 weeks. And then at that point, you could reassess, is this working for you? Do you need to make changes? Can you now increase it to a longer time? Is it not the 30 minutes that's working? Do you want to have a step goal of I want to make 5,000 steps a day, this many days out of the week? You're going to be a work in progress. Your plan can evolve. You want to have a support system. So a support system can be made up of your family members, co-workers, just like an accountability partner. I know at my job, we did a health challenge. It was a 3-month health challenge where we were accountable to one another. We all had a partner in terms of activities. We were all taking the stairs to the office. We were all meal prepping and bringing our lunches with us. We weren't supposed to have fast food. If anyone had fast food, it was once during the week. And if anyone saw you slipping, your accountability partner would be like, hey, and I work in the Palmdale area, so there's a lot of temptation there. So you might need a reminder, hey, didn't you just have this 2 days ago? Hey, why don't we do this instead? Right? Someone to remind you of what your goals are. And that could even include recruiting professional health. So consulting a dietitian or a health coach to help get you on track if you're still having that challenge. And then you want to integrate this into your lifestyle. It should be a part of your daily routine. So you don't just want to go on a crash diet, right? Some of us will do that. I want to lose 20 pounds by this time to fit into this dress. But when we have these very severe, very restrictive changes that we make, once we reach this goal, we tend to go back into our old patterns and there's a rebound, right? To where we end up weighing even more. We gain more weight than we had previously weighed, right? We're eating worse, we're exercising less because it's like we were on punishment and now we're free. But when you see it as a lifestyle integration, a lifestyle change, like I am now someone who meal preps for the week so that I don't find myself looking for unhealthy foods. I am someone who wakes up early, 30 minutes earlier so that I can have a workout. I'm someone who takes my exercise clothes with me in the car when I go to work so that I don't come back home because if I go home, I know I'm not going to come back out, right? So you're making changes that help you to incorporate this into your lifestyle as a long-term change. So concluding, obesity is complex. There is not one cause, and so there is not one fix. Natural prevention and management is more effective, it's more sustainable than the pharmacological methods. We know in the news now we hear a lot about Ozempic. Persons are, doing the gastric bubble and the gastric bypass, but none of these methods are sustainable without lifestyle changes. right? It's more practical than surgery, and when done in a healthy way, there's no risk of complications. We want to make sure that we are acting with wisdom. And the natural methods, they center on lifestyle changes with a holistic approach. So you're thinking about your body, you're thinking about your mind. And you can start, all of us, we can start making smart changes today. So those are our sustainable, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound changes to achieve or to maintain a healthy weight. And that is the end of my presentation. I want to thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fiora, for that enlightening presentation on preventing and managing obesity naturally. I'm sure there are some questions. So coming now with our question and answer period is Marie Martin.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Lacroix. All right. All those who would like to ask a question pertaining to today's presentation, please type it in the chat or on Mrs. Lacroix um, page. You can look at Holistic Lifestyle Facebook pages. Those who would like to vocally ask a question, please raise your hand and your microphone will be unmuted. So type your question in the chat or on Nathlin Lacroix or Holistic Lifestyle Facebook pages. Do we have any question? I see an unmuted mic, Motorola. Identify if you'd like to identify yourself, and you can go ahead and ask your question.
Sorry, actually, that was just accidental. I didn't really have any question to ask, but I just wanted to commend the speaker. I really appreciated and enjoyed her presentation. And thanks for reminding us how our cultural habits can contribute to obesity and that we need to be mindful of the way we eat. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much for unmuting and sharing that with us. K Ramin typed in the chat. Very good, Dr. Mori. Amen. And a question. If you have your weight control and BMI and it's hereditary, do this information still apply? So here is a question. Over to you, Dr. Mori.
Hey, if I'm understanding, it sounds like um if you have a healthy weight and a healthy BMI, does it still apply? Like I know some persons are genetically on the smaller side, they can eat whatever they want, and uh they still are able to maintain their weight. So while obesity might not be a challenge for you, it's always good for us to follow uh these principles because it's not just our weight, right? It's also our risk of cardiovascular disease. Even very persons on the smaller side can have heart attack, can have stroke, can get diabetes, can get hypertension, right? So it's still good to put these habits into practice for our overall health.
Amen. Amen. I see that we have a hand raised. Thank you so much for that answer. And also thanks for the question. We have a hand raised. Professor Don L. Major Sr. You may unmute and share at this time.
Good afternoon. First of all, this is my first time. And I want to thank you for putting on this very informative program. I want to congratulate Dr. Murray for the information that was presented. It's very timely, and it's also very, very important that we disseminate this throughout the country and even perhaps the world. I have a basic question that was put to me a couple of weeks ago by some former colleagues and friends of mine who were like I'm now retired, and they're in varying stages of disarray with regard to their health. And so I put it to them that they ought to consider at least doing something like movement or exercise or changing their diet. And so one of the questions was, what's the point after 65 now? Is there any benefit? I'm already this way now. So my question to the doctor is this: are there noticeable benefits for people who have not been living very healthily up to 65 plus, now changing the lifestyle, whether it's changing their diet, changing their exercise habits, changing their sleep habits? But we know about those that stop smoking and stop drinking, but what about the other aspects of their living environment?
Wow, thank you for that question. No, yes, it is something fairly common that we do see in the healthcare setting where persons, especially as they approach that 70 and 10, there's that sense of, well, I did it. I already made it to these years, and I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I think it's very important for persons to make those changes because there is always a benefit. There's always a benefit to having healthier habits because now we're thinking about quality of life and what we want the quality of those years to look like. Because 65, 70, those ages can look very different for a healthy person versus for a person who's having uh, been making not the best lifestyle choices. And just like stopping smoking can cause a reversal in uh, like the damage that was done in terms of lung health, as the time increases from cessation of smoking, we see reversal, right, of some of the scarring that was done and decrease in risk of things such as lung cancer. So in the same way, when we make these lifestyle changes in terms of our diet and our exercise, the risk factors can still decrease no matter what our health status is. So yes,
Amen.
definitely still benefits.
Thank you very much for that.
Amen. Amen. And thanks for that answer, Doctor. And oh, what very special welcome to you, Professor Donnell, Major Senior, and thanks for your question. And so we have another question in the chat. All right. But just before, Teresa mentioned very informative, doctor. Also, we have a question from Mr. Usman, how to deal with when you reach a plateau with weight lost.
Yes. Now, I know that's something that a challenge that a lot of persons face. You feel like you're doing all of the right things, and then you just kind of hit a wall where no matter what you do, you feel like you're not really seeing those results anymore. You may have to go back to the drawing board, right? Assess your habits. Has it been exercise? Sometimes we're approaching it in a one-dimensional way where we're focusing on exercise but not on diet, or we're focusing on diet but not on exercise, or the exercise that we have been doing has not been challenging or intense enough um, for us. We want to make sure we might have to kick it up a little bit. And then the other factors that we mentioned could be hindering you in terms of you are addressing your diet and your exercise, but your sleep could be holding you back. Your stress-related practices could be holding you back. And if you are fighting the fight on all fronts, it's good to maybe see a physician and find out if you have some sort of predisposed condition, like a hormonal condition, that could be causing you to gain weight despite your best efforts.
Amen. Thank you, doctor. And thank you, Mr. Usman, for that question. And Kay Raman says thank you. Also, just a reminder, those who would like to listen to this presentation again can find it on Natlin Lacroix or Holistic Lifestyle Facebook pages or Holistic Lifestyle YouTube channel. And if you'd like to be alerted of the next public health lecture, the WhatsApp number is in the chat 242-828-8486, or you can put your number in the chat or email lifestylecounselor64@gmail.com. We say good day to you, Tyrone, and this mentioned about eating with a plate of fruits and a half vegetable. Yes. So if you had a question about that, Tyrone Paul, yes, that was in the presentation. Next, Sister Linda mentioned small changes at any age should be beneficial. L. Brown says it has been said that you should not drink with a meal. Is there any time frame in which you should drink water before or after a meal? And so that's a question for you, doctor.
Okay, generally it's recommended that we wait 30 minutes, 30 to 60 minutes after a meal, before we drink any sort of significant amount of fluids, just so that our body can focus on digestion, of the meal. Because now when we drink large amounts of water, that can dilute our digestive enzymes and slow digestion down. So 30 minutes before or 30 to 60 minutes after.
Thank you, doctor, and thank you, L. Brown, for that question. Tyrone Paul question is, can I eat both at one time, or should I split the having vegetables at one meal and fruit at another? Doctor, for you, question for you.
Yeah, it's perfectly safe to eat fruits and vegetables together. Similarly, like how we can blend them in a smoothie. Persons will put spinach, bananas, strawberries. So no, there aren't any restrictions in terms of putting them together. Once you're getting all the nutrients, that's great.
Okay, thank you, doctor. And thank you, Tyrone Paul, for that question. Teresa on iPhone, thank you for placing your number in the chat. Lorraine Dean, which fruit should be avoided for diabetics?
As far as I know, there are no fruits that are totally off limits, but there are fruits that are pretty high in their glycemic index, high in sugars, that should be eaten in moderation. So those are going to be mangoes, pineapples, the grapes, especially the purple grapes, even watermelon. Uh, yeah, those very sweet fruits, and definitely the dried fruits because the sugars are so concentrated in those. We don't even realize that there are sometimes 9 or 10 servings in a bag of something like dried mangoes, and we'll eat them in one sitting, right? So we want to, uh, yes, definitely use moderation when it comes to those.
Amen. Thank you, doctor. We also have a mic unmuted. Then Sandria Taylor Wright, did you want to ask a question? Okay. T, did you want to ask a question? I see you just unmuted. All right. Sister Barbara Wilson, I see you're unmuted. Would you like to ask a question?
Yes, I have struggled with weight all my life. I've probably lost 40 pounds or more at least 3 times. And of course, in every case, I gained it right back. So I know what to do. But, one of the things that I did in the past, which always worked, was put myself on a high protein diet and get rid of most of the carbs. The problem is now I'm at the point in my life where I would like to get rid of a lot of that protein, which was mainly meat, chicken, and fish. I find that a lot of vegetarians tend to be obese or gain weight simply because they eat more carbs than they do protein. Now, of course, I know that you can find protein in beans and there are other sources, but maybe I just don't know what they are, but they just seem so limited. And most of the times I don't feel full eating those things. But if I eat some meat, I could go a few hours without eating. So what's the solution to that, please?
Yes, so yes, when you're switching over to plant-based, it definitely is a whole mindset shift. There are a lot of like you said, non-meat sources of protein, even the things that you wouldn't think of. So let's say quinoa as opposed to rice. Quinoa is high in protein. There are pastas that are reinforced with protein because they're made out of vegetables. right? You'll see those like hidden vegetable pastas. They have spinach, they have sweet potatoes, they'll have lentils into the pasta, right? So looking for ways that you can kind of hide proteins in something, putting vegetables into the sauce of a pasta like mushrooms, those are high um, in protein because it's the protein that, like you said, that keeps us fuller for longer. So it'll just pretty much be the sizes, the portion sizes that you might want to look at to make sure that you're getting the same amount or the recommended amount of protein with the vegetables. And I know a lot of persons don't really like tofu or they don't really like um the soy chunks or the very processed canned veggie meat. So it's kind of playing around and figuring out what you like. And like I said, using some of those healthier starches, because I definitely have seen what you've said as well in terms of when you don't know how to have a healthier plant-based diet or a balanced plant-based diet, you can definitely lean too heavily on starches, and that's not good either.
Thank you, doctor. And thank you for that question, Barbara Wilson. Nathalie Lacroix, currently there is a lot of talk about intermittent fasting. Is that recommended? Question for you, doctor.
Intermittent fasting, it is, like you said, a very hot topic. I would say that it is not sustainable. Sometimes it can cause some unhealthy spikes. So while it can be very successful for short-term weight loss, it's something that persons may do for a few weeks for a function, but long-term, I would not recommend it. I think that if you're eating healthy, balanced meals, 2 to 3 meals a day, and you are half your plate is fruits or vegetables, you're not having refined sugars, there should be no need for the intermittent fasting. Because remember, we want to build lifestyle changes and something that we can keep up with long term.
Amen. Thank you so much, doctor. And thank you, Nathalie Lacroix, for that question. Yvette Willie, is it best to eat fruits on empty stomach? Question for you, doctor.
There isn't really, as far as I know, any proven benefit to having fruits on an empty stomach. That can actually cause some unhealthy blood sugar spikes sometimes. So yeah, fruit can be eaten at any time. You can have it with your meal. You can have it. Some persons have it as almost a dessert at the end. But yes, no proven benefit to having it on an empty stomach.
Amen. Thank you, doctor. And thank you for that question. All right. So the next question that we have in the chat, so thank you, Yvette. So, and also Yvette Willie. Now we have Yvette Johnson. I have an 8-year-old granddaughter, height 50 inches and weighs 150 pounds. What is the best approach to dealing with gluttony and excessive desire for sugary substances?
I know that we've kind of have a culture now where sugar is we children eat so much sugar. I've noticed that even at some of our churches in the Sabbath school classes, all of the treats are very high in sugar that we give them. So it's difficult. I think one of the main things is making it a family lifestyle change. So all of the adults around her, especially in the home, would have to make an effort to show her through their own habits. So they should be feeding her the way that they will be eating. So everyone is eating healthy. Everyone is eating more fruits and vegetables where none of us are indulging excessively in fast food. We're not keeping the sugary substances in the house, and we're now replacing them with things that are still fun and still kid friendly, but are healthier. So it's not just an isolation of, oh, you have to go on a diet, but as a family, we're all getting healthier, including, like we said, the exercise, which will help to curb some of those cravings.
Thank you, doctor. And thank you, Yvette Johnson, for that question. Yvette Willie says quinoa is good. All right. T. Care says, we are in a very weight conscious culture. While I agree we are to be aware of a healthy lifestyle and do our best to practice it and be in the right ranges, more emphasis can be placed on overall physical, emotional, spiritual health above weight. Okay, Natalie Nicole, what type and duration of exercise would you recommend to persons 60 plus? What can be done to maintain muscles? Question for you, Doctor Maury.
Okay, yes, for when it comes to maintaining muscle, as we get older, naturally our muscles do tend to atrophy or decrease in size, decrease in strength. Those are normal changes of aging. But if we want to hold off and remain in health for as long as possible, our resistance exercises can significantly help to improve strength and balance and also reduce the risk of falls. So that's squats, bicep curls. If they have you can get small weights, like maybe the 3 pound weights, 5 pound weights, nothing that's going to overtax the body, or even household items can be used for this, like canned foods if weights aren't purchased, lunges, step ups, like just having a step and going up that step and back down it one at a time. All of those things that can give your body a little bit of resistance, give your muscles a little bit of a challenge. And it can even just be for maybe 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes a day. So something is better than nothing at all.
Amen. Thank you, Doctor.